The first 5 months was brutal. Really, really brutal. We had Saturdays when we didn't even have one table. And we didn't want all those people who we convinced to feel like, oh my God, this is a sinking ship, so we have to flee. So we took them all to a Korean barbecue and told them that everything is okay. We expected this, we didn't.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Don't waste a crisis. It's been the attitude of many trying to navigate the COVID world, stay afloat, and, if possible, come out the other side stronger. With time and necessity, we've seen sweeping changes to the culinary landscape for many, and some, afforded the opportunity, have used their time to explore new avenues. Daero and Illa Kim are the owners of Soul Dining and Soul Deli. Guys, how you going?
Hello.
Hi, thank you for having us.
It's great to have you on. You launched your restaurant Soul Dining 2 years ago, but during this time, with the crazy time of the last year, you launched Soul Deli, a Korean deli. Tell us a bit about it.
Yes, so when the lockdown in Sydney happened, we had to adjust like everybody else, and it was really difficult for us because basically the only thing possible was takeaway or delivery, and we didn't do any of those. And I still remember when lockdown was announced, we had about a week time to prepare everything, and the easiest would have been, and I think everybody in this situation thought about, can I do takeaway? What's the easiest way? And the easiest back then would have been just doing takeaway with what we have already. But for us, it was really difficult because the food, we were worried about how the food would arrive at the homes, because the whole menu was concepted that way, that you eat it at the restaurant, because we saw it as an experience where you talk to your waiter, where you get your food explained, all those kind of things. And also, we didn't have any staff that could have done the delivery themselves. Nobody had a car, even a bike. So we would have been depending on the delivery partners. And even though there were many who offered a discounted rate, it was still too high with the food cost that we had, because, So we sat down, we to be honest with you, we tried for a week, but we saw that this is not going to get us through this period, because we back then also didn't know how long this is going to last. Nobody told us, is it a 2 weeks lockdown? Is it 4? Is it 6 months? Back then, people used to talk about 6 months lockdown. So, we basically had just money for 1 month to survive.
Wow.
Yeah, we were a young business. We are 100% privately funded. It's our mortgage money that went into this business. And we were just at the turning point where we could pay things properly, basically, because we're at that point 1 year and a few months old. So 1 month's worth of money that we had in our accounts, and we had staff, many of them returned.
Yes, at that moment, we had many Korean staff we working around, but like most of them are the student or the working holiday people. So we have to let go, because we can't holding them in a situation how it can get bad or not. Then we can't forcing to them to stay with us, because that's what we can do. So our 60% of the staff leave, and just few chefs, and we are just left in a restaurant. We try to keep our business as much possible. And then, as Illa say, we are try to delivering our restaurant food as the delivery platform, but it didn't work. We can't give the same amount of the experience give it to the customer, and the food cost and, partners take their thing as well. So we sit down, we close for the week, and we sit down in the restaurant with our 2 full-time chefs and Eli and me. And then we just discuss about what we can do, how we can surviving in that moment in the delivery and takeaway platform. Then our chefs and me are making few idea to making the final product. What we made is the kind of the rice bowl, something homey, something what you can eat every day. So this start idea from the Soul Deli.
With one venue and not much cash in reserve, how did you come to the conclusion that taking on another venue to create the deli was a good idea?
I honestly don't know if it was a good idea. We do currently have moments. It's half a joke where we think if we hadn't done that, we might be at a better place and maybe able to finally do that mortgage that we talked about. But I think you do get a little bit addicted to that whole new concept and new venue idea, right? And when we started looking so financially, the hole in the wall venue that we initially thought that would just do takeaway and delivery from over a counter, that would have financially made sense. But because lesser rents and less people, all those kind of things, and the menu just concentrated on a certain dish that you can replicate really quickly, so stuff like that. But once we started looking for the venues, and it's also a bit sad, but there were a lot of great venues that became available back then. And the landlords were very eager to get those venues filled. And so we had, it sounds a bit bad, but we had a good position to negotiate. And with that, we just developed all these ideas, and all those people came to us talking about all those ideas. And it was too tempting not to do this. Because what we also realized during COVID, or what we got to appreciate, was the power of community. And we were looking for ways to give back to community. And naturally, this whole Korean Australian community around us just came together, and we wanted to give them a venue where we can show this. Because after COVID, one of those things that we realized as well, we just started talking to each other in a different way, because we all went through this crisis, and normally we felt more like we have to keep it to ourselves because we might seem like a weakness, or other people might do better, but all those kind of doubts. But we all knew we went through this hard time and we came out of it somehow. Let's talk about this. What was your experience, and what are you doing differently? How are you adapting? And out of all of that, we just felt like, let's give this a chance. This is unique. This is something that we can create here that's really special.
Well, it certainly is. And I'm not sure that there is another Korean deli in Australia. Daero, can you tell us about what it is that you're doing and what you're offering there?
In the Soul Deli, we are trying to making a little bit different as a Soul Dining. Soul Dining is basically making all the dish as my memory and experience, and to presenting like now times of the Korea in Australian market. But Soul Deli is the more friendly and more daily life, and more like a lifestyle thing, to put it under the cafe, hybrid, deli, maybe restaurant in one day. So in Soul Deli, I'm trying to making everything from the scratch. So I make all the sauce from the deli, except some product I have to buy it. Then something I have to buy it, I always choose the Korean product. Anything I can get best as possible. And I'm making at the moment 4 kind of the kimchi making in the daily and fermenting in the house. Also, I'm making tofu, like a soybean curd, making by itself for the menu and for the sale to the customer. And I'm offering in Delhi some Korean snacks, like my childhood snack and some Korean drinks. And I'm trying to making like Sydney side of the Korean community in the Delhi venue. So we are inventing Korean coffee roastery called Primary Coffee. I don't know how I can say this one, but yeah, we are using the Korean roasteries coffee. We contact with the Korean like fashion designer to making our goods and make with the Swiss style. And we try to get like the pottery guy who met with me after the COVID as the personally, but he come and helping us to get nice art piece of like pottery thing under the wall of the Soul Deli. Even he's selling it and stuff like that. The whole Sydney side Korean community who living around us to show what it is inside of the Delhi. That's what we are trying to do.
Ila, you guys mentioned that with the Delhi, you're trying to connect with the Australian Korean community and also introduce Korean culture to Australian way of life. Tell us about what it's like to eat there and the impact that it's had.
So at Soul Dining, we always felt that people book, they plan their visits, they already know a little bit what they're going to have. So it's more of a dining experience where it's a special occasion kind of a thing. But at Soul Deli, we found that there are guests who can come 3 times a day. It's part of their daily routine. And that's how we wanted it always to be, like that you go to a place and the Korean Australian culture that we show there can be part of your daily lifestyle. I felt that all those artists who we showcase in the venue are just doing that. They are either first generation or second generation, sometimes third generation Koreans living in Australia, having found their own ways, living in Sydney, and also trying to find what they can contribute to the whole culture experience. And I think it's actually really easy to make that part of your daily routine and your lifestyle. And that's exactly what's happening. So we have regulars who come in the morning for a bacon and egg roll, which is a very Australian thing, right? But we do have this special chili sauce in it that Daero makes. And that gives that bacon and egg roll an extra kick. And some regulars say they got addicted to it. They just need that kick in the morning to wake up with the coffee that we serve. And then at lunchtime, we get our regulars who come for the KFC roll, Korean fried chicken. And then they come back again for afternoon tea where they have the Korean donut. So, and it is already part of their lifestyles. We are surprised at the amount of kimchi we are selling. The idea of having those 4 different kinds of kimchi that Daero mentioned came also a little bit from COVID because we only had 1 kimchi on our menu at Soul Dining, which is the white kimchi. But because that kimchi is vegan, people were asking where they could get really good vegan kimchi or vegan sauces because Korean flavors make so many things much more intense and interesting, and they would like to do that, but they can't get it anywhere because we put fish sauce basically in every sauce that we make, right? The Korean fish sauce. So that was one of those reasons when we did the 4 different kinds of kimchi, the traditional one, the white kimchi vegan, and then the red kimchi vegan, and the stir-fried one. Because there was a need in the community, and we are really glad and a little bit surprised as well how much of that we are actually selling right now.
Well, I'm intrigued to know how you guys met and started all of this, but I wonder if, Daero, you can take us back to why you became a chef and the beginnings of your career.
I think so when I was young, really was young. My first memory when I first cooking was making fried egg when I was like 5-6 years old. Because my dad, very, very good at making sunny side up. But I always want to making sunny side up, but always ruin it because I don't know how to control the fire. Of course, it's 5 years old kid sitting on the stove and making fried egg by myself. And then second memory what I have was 9 years old. I got the book from the mom's bookshelf. I think at that time my mom just bought a small microwave plus oven thing. So it comes with some cooking book. Then I started watching that cooking book and I find out some sponge cake. Then start following the instruction and made it. It was my maybe second class of the primary school and stuff like that. I always interesting about making food and eating stuff. Also, my father gave me a lot of inspiration because my father used to be a truck driver. And in my holiday season, he always working. So he traveling up and down, like top to bottom in the Korea, everywhere. So also his truck has got small bed at the back. So I can stay with him for like 1 week's trip to all around the Korea, go to all the small market when he stops, and then all the truck driver or taxi driver know where's the best meal they sell as the best price. So I tried so many things and it gives me a very good experience out of it. And then just fell in love with the bread when I was 15 or 16. So I want to be a baker. So that moment I was deciding I want to be a baker when I get the job. So in the last class of the high school, I have an opportunity to do some like a job training type of thing. So I decided to go to the hotel school, kind of the culinary school in Korea. So in a year, I just finished that school. Luckily, I have a chance to go to the Italy because the school has got connected with like kind of the scholarship thing. So I have a chance to go to Italy and stay for a month and see so much beautiful things in Italy and eating all the lovely food. Then I was thinking I need to do some Western food. They got something room for it because I just fell in love with it. But still the baker thing is keep going on in that sense. So, but in Korea, the guys have to go to the military service. If military service is not done yet, then you can't go to overseas easily because they don't give me a long-term passport. So I go to the military service as the cook for 2 years and cooking for, Korean cooking for the big guys who in military for 2 years. Oh, if I'm thinking now that it was my Korean food experience coming from. Might be because after that I never been Korean cooking for more than 12 years. Because
wow.
I was more like trained as the westernized food. So like Italian, Spanish, French restaurant, where I working in Korea, in Australia and New Zealand. And go back to there, after the military service, was start working in a bakery in called Gangnam. Gangnam is like a central place in Seoul City, and I was learning about the sourdough and all the making bread and stuff. I was having fun, but one day I was realized I'm doing same things every day. That's my concern to start change to the chef, to the baker, because that moment just realized I'm not a guy who doing same things every day. I wasn't happy. I cannot be happy than doing same things every day. Of course, it's the very like intense thing. I could say like it's a very hard job and like a very mastering things. Become a master in the sense. But I wasn't that kind of guy. But I want to be that kind of guy, but I wasn't that kind of guy. That's what I realized, like working in a bakery for a few months. So I want to be a trendy, something new thing keep coming up. I want to kind of creating something. I want to making some fun thing and stuff like that.
Let's mention that he was in his 20s. So he wants to be trendy.
Well, Illa, I wonder if you could tell us what lured you to hospitality and how did you guys meet and go on the path that you're on now?
What lured me to hospitality is my husband, who's a chef. I do enjoy it now very, very much. But we met at a venue where Daero used to be head chef and I used to be the senior consultant for PR and events. So I come from a public relations background, and it was a German company who built a very interesting venue with a creative agency on top. And they did events themselves, and we had clients, and we did their marketing strategies and all those kind of things. And I was in charge of PR. And Daero was the head chef of the venue below. And we did quite a few big events together for brands like Nike and Adidas and Blizzard, all those kind of things. And that's how we met. But back then we were just colleagues. And then I went on, because before that I used to do a lot of startup PR. I went on to a bigger company that was it was a startup, and I was a spokesperson for them. And then we met again through friends that we had together back then. And we started dating. And 2 months into dating, Daero got this offer from Australia, from that restaurant where he used to work back then for Working Holiday, that they would like to have him back as it started with sous chef in Sydney, in Darling Harbour. And he was like, "Oh, you want to go with me?" And I was like, a bit fast. Also, I grew up in Germany, so I just made it back to Korea, so I was a bit reluctant to change the country again. But in the end, it took time until Daero was ready to go. By the time we've been together for a year, and we had that confidence that we could do it. And that's how we came to Australia. And he started the job that was offered to him. And I was working in an office. But after a while, we realized we really want to do our own restaurant. And we were talking about it all the time. And at first, when I came to Australia and I couldn't get a job right away, I did waitressing and running food and stuff like that. And I used to do it, of course, back then in Germany when I went to uni. But I also realized how professional everything is in Australia in terms of waitressing and running food. That was a really eye-opening moment how this industry is taken so seriously in this country, which was really nice to see, which gave me a bit more of a confidence to make a proper business out of this with my husband. So, but still, the reason why I became a hospitality person that I feel very good with now, but was because of my husband.
Thank you.
Well, you did take the leap of faith and you opened Soul Dining, but it's not been without its challenges. You had the light rail going in down the street that it's on. You've had COVID and you've opened a new venue. What's it been like the last 2 years trying to create this amazing Korean experience, but with all those challenges?
To be honest with you, when we started all of this, as Daero said, he said it in a funny way with the trendy thing, but I guess we wanted to be seen, if that makes sense. We wanted to see where we could be if we tried, because we couldn't get any reference. We had confidence in our food and the experience that we offer, but we didn't know how it would compare to others who do this so well. So we wanted to be in the middle of things. And for us, it was always Surrey Hills, CBD, Potts Point, Darlinghurst, that area. It was also the area that we lived in when we came to Australia. And we felt like we have to know the people if we want to sell food to those people. So that was those areas that we felt comfortable in. But we didn't have that much funds to get into the really good menus. So the only ones that people showed us were the ones with an issue. Because we are basically nobody knew us. We didn't have big names on our resumes. And as you said, I wasn't even from hospitality. So we couldn't get that trust in us to get to those real estates that looked really, really good. So light rail was one of those issues that made us come to Surrey Hills. Without that, we couldn't have been in that space, I think. And at the beginning, it was hard. So our restaurant manager back then, a very good friend of ours, Kim, he came from a very big venue. Daero came from a very big venue, both in Darling Harbour. So we miscalculated our targets, our sales forecast, and all of that. We had to learn everything really from scratch, because we felt like everything that we knew, it's not applicable to the thing that we do. We had to fight with stereotypes about Korean food, or a venue full of Asians, I would say. Because back then we used to be all Korean team, because when we put up a job advert, nobody wanted to work with us because the concept was strange for many of the people, and they didn't know us. It's a first venue, so they were worried, so they didn't come to us. So we had to we had to convince some of our friends and people that we got introduced to try this with us. The first 5 months was brutal. Really, really brutal. We had Saturdays when we didn't even have one table. Yeah, there was and we didn't want all those people who we convinced to feel like, oh my God, this is a sinking ship, so we have to flee. So we took them all to a Korean barbecue and told them that everything is okay. We expected this, we didn't. We told them like, this happens, we knew about this, but we will be just there and it will be all good. Later on, our now head chef, back then sous chef, told us they couldn't order more meat because they were worried that we don't have the money. And we just drank. But after 5 months, I think it was a long period of just trusting ourselves and trying to do the things that we think is right. We did a lot of different marketing initiatives just to see what works and how we can get the word out there. But in terms of food and the experience that we deliver, we tried to stay really true to ourselves. And I think after 6 months, it started like getting the people in and having guests on a Saturday. And then we tried new things like the truffle season, and then after a year, we felt like that it's coming to a point where we feel not established, but still it's running now. We don't have to worry in that way. But then COVID came, so.
Well, the light rail is in place now, and we're hopefully ahead of COVID. And you've got the contemporary Korean soul dining and the everyday sort of Korean experience with Soul Deli. What is it that you hope that people take away from the experiences of those venues?
I hope, or we hope, that people can see how diverse Korean food can be. Although Sydney has such a sophisticated food scene, in terms of Korean, we always felt that it's very good at the lower price end, the Korean barbecues and the chicken and all those kind of things, but still missing a bit in terms of how it can be different, what we can see in Seoul or sometimes what we can see in New York or San Francisco. You see a lot more diversity in terms of Korean cuisine, or LA. And I think Sydney could do that as well because we have a really big Korean expat community here. I think it's actually even bigger than New York in numbers. Yeah. So we have all this knowledge and all these people here who could do that. But and also with the rise of K-pop and K-dramas and everything, people have much more interest in Korean culture and food. And I think that's something where we can give some, interesting aspects to, or have our own story within that context. So we are always thinking like Sydney has so many beautiful beaches, and there's this way how you eat seafood in Korea. Like you have these big tables where everything is just brought to you at once, and different kinds of seafood made in different ways. You sit at a very low table on the floor, and all those kind of things that makes the beach experience also a little bit different in a Korean way. And we think about all those kind of things, and there's just so much more that we could do. And many more people, young chefs that we meet along the way, who wants to do the same as well. So we hope that we can contribute to the development of Korean cuisine in Australia, or Sydney at least.
Well, Illa and Daero, we've loved having you on Deep in the Weeds today, and I think there's so much more we can talk about, and really look forward to seeing the development of what you do and bring to the Australian culinary landscape. Please keep in touch, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.